you all so much for providing me this opportunity to tell my story about the exceptional care I received here at Mass General Hospital. There's a famous quote by Mark Twain that I'm sure you're all familiar with. If you don't like the weather in New England, wait a few minutes. Well, you know, a person's health can be, it can change just as quick. But thankfully, I'm a strong, stubborn northerner of Italian and Scottish descent, so I'm all set. I came down with pneumonia in February of 2009, and with plenty of antibiotics and R&R, I thought I had recovered unscathed. About 2 months later, I clearly remember walking to my desk one Monday morning, feeling lightheaded, short of breath. You know, I contributed to having too much coffee. I didn't eat a healthy breakfast, didn't sleep well. But as the week progressed, so did my symptoms. So it came to be a time where I knew I needed to call my primary care physician. God love her, she pulled out that EKG machine right away and found that I was in first-degree heart block at that time. So she set up some tests, a stress echo, that I went to a few days later. I remember having the hardest time even walking to the diagnostics area. You know, honestly, I thought it was going to be one of those situations where they put you through a slew of tests to rule everything out. You know, give it a couple weeks, you'll be fine. Not so much. So I go in, get hooked up to all the electrodes and leads, and started with the echocardiogram. And you know, when the technician excuses themselves right away, you know that there's probably something of concern. And so she returns with the cardiologist, and after a brief review, explained in few detail, well, the few details that they knew of at that time. And all I heard was pacemaker, leaky valves, and you have this section of your heart that doesn't seem to be working. So, I continued on with the test and was admitted, which I really didn't have time for. I had tickets to see the Doobie Brothers that night with some friends, but as many of you know, illness, it never comes at a good time. After further testing, it was apparent that I needed more specialized care, and I was being transported to MGH, man's greatest hospital. Where else? My life had changed seemingly overnight. The viral pneumonia had attacked my heart with a vengeance. I was having conversations that I never thought I'd have, especially at 38. To my great satisfaction, I quickly learned that I was seen as a person, not just a patient. I was a stunned, scared, single mother of two. I was a daughter, sister, a girlfriend, and a social worker. The doctors and nurses did their very best to answer all of our questions and ease our minds. They took their time. I knew they had many patients that they needed to see, but they made me feel like I was the only one that mattered at that time. And it was sincere, and it was so appreciated. I remember the day that I met Dr. Carlson. He entered the hospital room during rounds. And right away you could tell he was someone of authority and respect. It was like the parting of the sea. Everybody just stood back and listened. And my family and I knew I was in good hands. I went home and was on the road to recovery, but soon became symptomatic again. It was concluded that the damage done to my heart was far worse than anybody had thought. I was presented with a strong probability that I would need a heart transplant, and was given information and consent to review with my family. Well, although in disbelief, we all agreed with this recommendation. I think I was in disbelief for a long time. You know, it was fine talking about the transplant, what it entailed. As long as I didn't personalize it, it became very scary at that point. It's difficult to wrap your mind around the fact that you need a transplant. To know that in order to get one, you have to become really sick and incapacitated. There was a big storm coming. but I always try to focus on the rainbow. And let me tell you, what a beautiful rainbow it was. The fact that you have to wait for someone else's untimely death and know the pain that their loved ones were feeling while graciously deciding to give the gift of life is remarkable. You know, as an expected parent, you wait on bated breath to see and hear your unborn child's heartbeat. Many patients mourn the loss of their birth heart. I went through a time where I felt so badly about it, and I had to apologize to my mother. You know, the heart that she gave me and she cared for since day one could no longer be alive. It needed to be replaced. The journey to heart transplant is tough, both physically and emotionally, obviously. It's hard not only on the patient, but on their loved ones. My thoughts turn to my children, Alexander and Tatiana. They have shown so much bravery these past 3 years. It was hard to figure out what my role was now as a mother. I couldn't care for them alone. I couldn't cook, clean. I couldn't even drive them to school at one point. Activities went from a day at the park to breathless games of Uno in the living room. As I had mentioned, it's the compassion and care that the staff here gave me. It helped make this journey an easier one. From the care team assigned to me while inpatient who knew and really understood me, the nurse who held my hand while I cried from frustration and fear, to the IV nurses that distracted me and offered cool washcloths as they repeatedly had to find a thing that would offer up some blood. The cath lab team who gives me the choice of music to listen to and offers humor in a not so humorous procedure. To the doctor who offers a peace offering of a beautiful handmade quilt when she tells me that I need to take a certain test again. To the transplant team social worker that spoke to me and offered literature about how to talk to my children about the fact I was sick and what was to come. Did I want a heart transplant? No. But I consider myself very blessed. Obviously blessed to be here before you this evening, to be with my children, to have a second chance at life. But also blessed to have had this experience. I've met so many wonderful people through this journey with whom I'd never meet. Blessed that MGH is named the best hospital in America. Recovery has its bumps and I'm not 100% yet, but let me assure you, I'm not complaining. I can walk without becoming breathless. I can go to dinner and a movie with Jeff. I'm able to take the kids out for an afternoon of fun. I can make a Sunday dinner and watch the pets. I can drive myself to the beach and take a walk. These simple things that I wasn't able to do for so long. I'm alive and forever grateful. I want to thank each one of you whose support makes their work possible, makes technology like the Heart in a Box transplant possible, and gives me and thousands of other patients hope each year. In closing, I'd like to reflect on what I think is the heart of Mass General. I believe it's the soul here of MGH. We walk these rounds and through the endless halls and are surrounded by historical innovations, 200 years of dedicated men and women who have pushed the boundaries for the well-being of others and continue to do so with passion and compassion.